Before we begin, let's have prayer. Dear Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the reason that you have brought each one of these people to Cohutta this weekend. Whatever it is, it's our prayer that as everyone leaves to go back home, they will have gained something insightful that will help whatever department they're working in to go just a little bit more smoothly. We pray that you will be with all of us as we work to make sure that all of our kids are in your kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, well, let's get acquainted. I'd like to know why you ladies are here, what it is that you do in your church, or maybe it's in a youth organization. What is it that you do? And my name is Vivian, and I have retired from teaching. I taught for 40 years, all ages, little ones right on up through 8th grade. And I have worked in children's Sabbath school, little ones, all up through the youth department. So I do have a background of working with kids. I'm not a child psychologist, just a classroom teacher. Definitely not a person who know all, because I don't know all. But I have gained some insights as I've gone along during my career. And so let's get acquainted. Why are you here today?
I'm a Sabbath school teacher for
What?
2 different classes.
Which ones?
I do Crandall role, and I do kindergarten, and I'm also an adventure instructor for the Sunbeam class.
All right. Can all of you hear her? Do you need for me to repeat anything?
That'd be awesome.
Okay. She works with Cradle Roll, Kindergarten, and Adventurers, right? And you?
I work with, I'm Drina with Stone Mountain Church,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm the Children's Ministry Director,
Okay.
and I work with anyone 0 to 12.
All right. This is Drina from Stone Mountain. She's Children's Ministry Director for her church, and she works 0 through 12. Okay?
I'm Leanne Garapi. I work at Georgia-Cumberland Academy, so I teach juniors religion, and I also am the Children's Ministries coordinator, and I've taught Sabbath schools from beginners on up to youth.
So with this is Leanne, and she's worked with children, beginners, all up through youth. So are you comfortable where you are and with what you know?
I always need to know more.
You know, that's interesting because I can remember years when I would get a new class, and you know, each new class is different. And I would go home, and this is my husband, by the way, back here. I would go home and tell my husband, it's like I'm a brand new teacher all over again. And those of you who have worked in a Sabbath school or adventures for a long time, you know that. You may think, oh, I've finally gotten it down, and whew, it all changes. So one tip that we all need to be always aware of is that every day is going to be a new day, unpredictable. And the beauty of working with children is that they're so forgiving. You may go home from Sabbath school adventurers or whatever you're doing and think, oh, Lord, I blew it. But the kids, oh, that's okay. You know, everybody makes mistakes. So that's one nice thing about working with children. And Lori?
Yes, I'm Laurie. I'm an assistant with Kids Church,
Okay.
and I have 2 kids on my own.
And what grades do you work with in Kids Church? Is it just all like
All of them.
everybody that comes for church?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay. Lori, Kids Church, all ages.
What church?
Conyers Church.
Hi, my name is Amanda. I go to Auburn Church, and I'm the primary Sabbath school teacher and associate director of our Adventure Club.
Okay. Did you pick her up okay? No? Oh, you didn't. Okay, Amanda from the
Auburn.
Auburn Church. And over here,
Susanna from Beaufort Family Church, and I am with the Little Lambs.
the little ones, little lambs. Okay, Susanna from Beaufort, and she works with little lambs. And Lily?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
We started with you, didn't we? We started with you. Okay, so most of you here are working with the younger children. Okay. Now, if I gave you this so you can just jot anything you want to on it. And feel free to stop me at any time. My mind goes just all different directions, and so I may have a thought going, but then break it. So we want to hit what you want to talk about as we're going through. I put a text right here at the top. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Proverbs 22:6. We're all very familiar with that. How about this one? And ye shall teach them your children, speaking of them, when thou sittest in thine house, when thou walkest by the way, when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Deuteronomy 11:19. And if you read verse 18 right before that, it's Moses talking. And what he's talking about is teaching the children the ways of the Lord, how we bring them up in the ways of the Lord. Now, it might be that a lot of people, those of you who are especially working with the younger ones, you run into parents who say, oh, well, mine is just a baby. Sabbath school doesn't mean anything to my little one. Why should I even take him or her? I'm going to wait until they're 5 or 6 years old. Then we'll go to Sabbath school. Okay? What have we done? We've wasted 5 years of their little life spiritually. This verse is telling them, when thou sittest down at home around your table, when you're on the rug at home, no matter what you're doing, you're teaching your children, you're modeling to them Christian principles and Christian ideals. When thou walkest in the way, when you're out walking with your children outdoor, you're talking about creation, you're talking about Jesus. When thou liest down, you could say bedtime prayers, evening worship. When thou risest up, morning worship. So even these little tiny ones who may not be able to actively take part verbally, they're still absorbing. It's interesting, regardless of age, children have basic needs in common. I believe that love, respect, acceptance are the 3 primary ones. You've all heard about failure to thrive. The little ones who are in an orphanage, who are kept clean and dry and fed, but no one comes in to nurture them emotionally. They die because that part of their need hasn't been met. So we've got to help parents, and I really believe in many instances, regardless of the age you're working with, you are working with children who are products of Dr. Spock. Dr. Spock was a warm fuzzy. Every child needs 3 to 6 warm fuzzies every day. No matter what they do, it's okay. We want them to be little individuals growing up. You know, nobody's going to ever put them down for anything they do. Just let them, let them, let them. Okay, just before Dr. Spock passed away, I heard him on the news one day, and he said, I have an apology to make. I have ruined a whole generation of children with this permissive, do whatever you want to attitude. So our children have got to feel these things, that they're cared for, they're loved, that no matter what they do, you love them anyway, right? Because that's the way God looks at us. And so we need to look at our children in the same fashion. I can remember many years ago when we were visiting in my home church that I grew up in. I had 2 little girls at the time. They were 19 months apart. And I can't remember exactly how old they were at this time, but my little one was still an infant. We had traveled all night. Sabbath morning, we got up, we went to Sabbath school. My older one, who wasn't even 2 yet, she was maybe 20 months, something like that, was very antsy in Sabbath school. And she couldn't sit in her little chair. She didn't want to participate. Normally, she loves Sabbath school. She was just acting like a real little rascal. One of the ladies in the Cradle Roll Sabbath School, whom I remembered from when I was a kid, always was a little old lady in my mind, still working in Cradle Roll. She turned to me and she said, "I will hold the baby for you if you would like to take her out and give her a spanking." And I said, "She doesn't need a spanking. What she needs is a good nap." This lady did not understand the developmental need of a little one that age. What if that lady, and you see these in your churches, these people who start off down here in Cradle Roll and they just kind of cycle on up through. What if this same person moved on up through the ages and that was her mindset? Take her out and give her a spanking. All right. My little girl at 20 months forgot all about that. At 3, if someone said that, would she remember it? Chances are. 6, 9, 11. Is there a possibility eventually that child could associate negativism and say, if that's the way people are going to talk about me, I'm not sure I want to be around them. That's something we have to be really careful of. Even though the little ones may not understand the words, they understand the tones. And I've never forgot it. And I said to my mom later, if I were a visitor in this church, I would never come back here. And so, as I have been teaching through the years, I've always tried to remember when a child comes into the classroom in the morning, I don't know what has gone on before. I don't know about the verbal barrage she had with her stepdad on the way to school that took her 2 hours to finally calm down so she could do school. I didn't know that at that particular day, you know. I didn't know that this little boy had been throwing up all night. And Mom thought, oh, he's good, he can go. You're going to get kids like that, right? Coming into adventures, coming into Sabbath school class, coming into junior class. You'll get them. And you may not know that backstory. And so we've got to give these kids positive love, understanding, acceptance, no matter how they're behaving or how we might feel, you know, at any given time. Because that is their right as people. Now, when I talked to Fernando initially and he asked me about doing this little workshop, he said he didn't want it heavy with theory, just kind of an overview. If you are interested in theory, go online and Google it, stages of development. You'll find all the theorists listed there and what they espoused. I couldn't begin to tell you them all. But I do know there was Gordon Thomas back in the 1960s, and he was a person, a child psychologist. He did not believe in rewards and praises. I have a friend that I've accused of being the sticker queen because everything's about a little award. Mr. Thomas, he did not believe in that. He believed that children should be taught to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, to be self-controlled, self-motivated, responsible. And I believe probably if Ellen White were here, she would tell us the same thing. That's the way we need to nurture them along, not to constantly reward them, because in real life, we don't get rewarded when we go to work, do we? No, not even a thank you. And yeah, you do get the paycheck, but sometimes along the way, I can remember saying, I'd rather go on welfare than have to do a particular thing, you know, that somebody else was having to do. Because there is sometimes no thanks in it. And you will have children dropped off at Sabbath school. You may never even see the parents. You don't have a clue who they are. There's one church in our conference. The ladies have done a beautiful job of running around and picking up neighborhood children, bringing them to Sabbath school. And these ladies realized early on the young people had had no breakfast. So if you're dealing with kids who come in with no breakfast, that sets you up for a problem. So they were feeding the children breakfast before Sabbath school. They were feeding them lunch before they went home. They were sending home little food bags with them because they knew that on Sunday they were not going to be nurtured properly. So you don't know what you're getting. And if the parents aren't coming with the kids, they can't give you any clues. And I know that it's really tempting sometimes to try to analyze the children and say, oh, that one's got ADD. I just know. That one's autistic and blah, blah, blah. They may be perfectly normal kids, just reacting to life that they have no control over. All of us, I don't care if we've taught for 40 years, have got to remember that. Okay, now the little ones, beginner to 2 years, usually parents nowadays, it seems, just from observation, I haven't worked with that group in a very, very long time, but as I listen to new mothers talk, they're not bringing baby out so much anymore, are they? It's like they're keeping them isolated at home so they're not exposed to anything. Maybe until they're 6 weeks old, you might not even see them. So you probably aren't getting newborns coming into Sabbath school, are you?
No, really.
No, you don't. So about how old are they when they start coming?
I have newborns.
You do have some newborns? And you've got their parents?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How many of you have parents that just stay right through?
Our class, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You do. And so you have parents who are there with their little ones. They're not being fed.
I know.
And I have talked to some children's Sabbath schools who said that they are trying to conscientiously weave things, learning lessons in there for parents. So when they go home, they've got something to think about as well. Okay, these little ones are developing bonds that will last a lifetime. Concepts of self-esteem and ability to relate positively, even the little ones, are beginning to develop. Their attention span is short, as you all well know. 1 to 2 minutes at the most. And the rule of thumb on attention span, it's their age plus a minute. They are active, especially as they're becoming more mobile, but they tire easily. So it's very, very important that you vary the activity. So they're up and they're moving, and then they're sitting. Up and moving and sitting. It's a time of beginning exploration, a little bit of independence, a little bit of freedom to make own choices. And you notice they parallel play. They may be doing the exact same thing, but they're going to do it solo. You also have observed once one starts crying or whining, it's so contagious. So I think, and I know you've got your own experience that has taught you some valuable lessons along the way, but I think if we can set up a situation to forestall the first one with the crying and the whining, that we will eliminate a big problem, because it's contagious all the way up through all the grades. The whining and the I still sub a lot, and I was in a classroom not very long ago, 5th and 6th graders, and one of the girls was really upset about something. She started crying. And before long, all the other 5th and 6th graders were crying. Then the little girls in 3rd and 4th grade walked down the hall, and they looked in and they saw them crying. They started crying. And one of the girls said, "I don't know what she's crying about. She doesn't even know what's going on, you know?" But it's contagious. So we've got to do everything we can to keep our atmosphere light and cheery and happy. And if you yourself are feeling kind of down that particular Sabbath, they're going to pick up on it. They can read emotions very, very easily. I have observed this with someone very young who had a very positive relationship with her teacher. But then her teacher was doing an experiment to see just how much this little one was picking up. So she started kind of scowling at her, not smiling, not really looking at her with eye contact. And it wasn't very long before this little girl she'd see that person and start doing this, pulling away. It's instinctive, self-preservation. Need to protect myself. So for us who work with them, it's really important that we ourselves are upbeat. Now, we've moved away from the birth up to now the 2-year. At this point, the child is beginning to understand the concept of Jesus. They're learning to pray. They're learning that Jesus loves them. They're learning attitudes of respect and joy that will go with them, hopefully, through life. And as adults who work with these little ones, we need to understand, respect, support, encourage the unique characteristics and abilities of each child, because they're not all the same. Even in the same family, how many of you are parents? Your kids aren't all the same, are they? Same mom, same dad? Different. We're a product of our gene pool, right? Some things we can never control. Okay, so we just need to be nurturing and accepting. Always remember that although there may be a norm, each child is growing at his or her own rate. So we can't compare. We can't say, why can't you sit in your chair like so-and-so can? This kid may be very passive, low energy. Maybe easier for this kid to sit her age plus 2 minutes, whereas this one might not even be able to sit his age in minutes. Okay, now we're going to move from toddlers, 2-year-olds to 5-year-olds. And it's graduating, so the first characteristics are more closely associated with the 2 going into 3-year-old. Motor and language skills are growing by leaps and bounds. Independence, frequent use of the word no, but they are also beginning to understand when you tell them no, what no means. One of our jobs at this age is to help them manage meltdowns. Now, you all know what I'm talking about, an emotional meltdown. We need to manage it to avoid it as much as possible. Bonds and trust that we're developing back at the beginner stage are becoming more intensified at this stage. We need to work now toward helping the child grasp the concept of modulating his own emotion and learning to delay gratification. We can do it later, but right now we're going to do this. Skill of reasoning by 5 is just beginning to develop. I know someone who was trying to reason with his 18-month-old through timeout. He'd say, you go to your room and you think about it, and then we'll talk about it. And I said, what? Okay. Rapid physical intellectual growth. Lack fine motor skills at this age. So don't expect them to just sit and color. They're not going to be able, as a whole, to do it. Quick memory. Loves memory verses, loves to sing. This is the age, ladies, when we really need to hit them with these concepts. Training up a child in the way he should go. Teach them these little songs, these little Bible verses, so when they're old and they're going through that valley of the shadow, no matter what it is, and no matter how they've lived through their life, these memory verses and these little songs will come back. Now, their attention span is also growing. It's 3 to 6 minutes. But they're very self-centered, can be very selfish. This is the time when we need to encourage them to be other-centered. Spiritually, the child needs to know God loves and cares for them. They need to learn how to respect God and others, learn difference between right and wrong, and at this age, they're not too young, 5-year-olds are not too young to learn the concept of will and grace. We're all born with a will, be it good or be it bad. Grace is God's gift to us that can step in when our will gets us into trouble. And if you need a little prop like this, these guys did have name tags at one time, but they lost them. If you need a little prop like that to work with your kindergarten primary, do it and refer back to it. Also, the acronym FROG, fully rely on God. You can begin to teach them that too. Fully rely on God. All right, school age. This is primary, 6 to 9. I enjoy working with this group. They soak up everything new. This is the time when they begin to be really, really interested in words. They like the challenge of using their mind. They're willing to participate in just about anything. They want to please the adults in their lives. Love group activities. They love outreach. Capitalize on outreach from the time they are little up. Get them involved in little mission projects. Help them to understand the needs of those less fortunate. They have a greater sense of right and wrong. So involve them in problem solving. Ask them, what do you think? How do you feel? What direction should we go with this situation? Oftentimes you'll find they're harder on themselves than you might be harder on them. Spiritually, the primary child understands God. He understands the teachings of the church on a very simplistic level. He wants to be told what to believe. Remember, he wants to please adults. So the primary age child, you're not going to ever have to haul him to church kicking and screaming. He's anxious to go. He wants to be where the action is. Teach him to pray. Help him. Pray with him. So he will, at that age, 6 to 9, it will be a habit already formed to go to Jesus when there's a problem. They accept the responsibilities of stewardship. So as a Sabbath school class, as an adventurer class, adopt some kind of little project that they can be involved in to help them. Responsibilities of parents and Sabbath school teachers: impart a moral code. They will gradually internalize it. Praise and encourage, but allow the child to suffer the consequence. And by all means, if you've promised them that a certain thing's going to happen, follow through on it. You've got to. So don't make idle threats, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay. Now, they are going to be able to think logically now, from cause to effect and reason. By the time we hit juniors, you can see a marked difference physically in boys and girls. Girls are maturing at approximately a year to 2 years ahead of boys at this rate. So girls are going to be, when it comes to these stupid, silly little boys over here and what they're doing, because they're still very interested in what little boys do. They're not interested in a girlfriend at that point, whereas your 12-year-old girls might be interested in a boyfriend. So at this point in time, the two sexes are poles apart. So you may have to tell your junior age girls, we're girls, ladies. We're not boys. We're never going to understand where they're coming from. We just have to accept it and go on. Okay? They're becoming very critical, 10 to 12-year-olds. Question authority. Now, they may do it nicely, and they may not do it nicely, because they may be becoming more verbal, more mouthy. Okay, they get bored easily unless they see the purpose for what you're doing. You've got to get them engaged and say, what would you like to do? What would you like us as a family to do? What would you like as a Sabbath school? They're not in adventures anymore, I guess. What are they in at that point? Pathfinders, that's right. Pathfinders. What would you like to do? Give them opportunity to have input. They need to be on board at this point with decision making. Not that they can make all their decisions. They tend to take themselves very seriously. Spiritually, the junior age child wants the adults to pay attention to them, but to be low-key about it, to be good role models. Their concept of the Savior and will and grace are becoming more deeply ingrained. They're very rule-oriented. If you have a rule for your class, they want everybody following it. They need personal freedom. They do not want to be referred to as children. That gets their ire up. They need for us as adults to share our own stories with them. Tell them how we handled peer pressure. Read to them. This is an excellent book on dealing with bullying. It's called The Christmas Menorah, How a Town Fought Back. True story. And kids need to hear about religious persecution at this age. They need to know that if somebody is being bullied because they're Jewish or whatever reason, that we need to stick up for them. We can't allow children to think it's okay to be quiet when somebody's being mistreated. And because the junior is rule-oriented, he can grab onto that pretty easily. Don't try to be best friends with kids at this age. Doesn't work. That can, when they become adults, you can be best friends. Now, the early teenager is often unpredictable. They may act like juniors, but want to be treated like adults. Okay? They don't want to be different. That's why they cave in to peer pressure. Intellectually, they may know that the behavior that is going on, the words that are being said are wrong, but they don't want to be different, so they will just stand there and let it happen. This is a time when they are able to sit down and have long discussions. And parents of kids this age have told me the best time for discussions is on the way to school. We can talk then about the problems they're not going to open up and talk about at home in front of their peers or their siblings. Okay? So capitalize on those times, those of you who are parents. Set them up. Have dates with your boys, with your girls. I know friends who will schedule once a month. They'll take each one of their children out for lunch, and that's their time, just to talk. If you are teaching in a setting and you spot a child in your junior class, your early teen class, that you think can benefit from more mom time or more dad time, don't go up and tell your parents what you think, but get to know them so they feel comfortable dialoguing with you about what's really going on. Then you're free to make a suggestion. Say, this is what works for me. Maybe it would work in your situation. Everything they need to make sense. The child that's 13, 14 years old, if it makes sense in their mind, but it's not the cool thing to do because nobody else is doing it, they're not going to do it either. They may have the head knowledge, but it's not going to translate into their own behavior. And this is true spiritually. It's often this age, a person has all the concepts down pat. They understand will and grace. They understand salvation. They understand the basic tenets of our Seventh-day Adventist Church. It's a head knowledge. It's not in their heart. Or it may have been in their heart at one point, but it's kind of cooled. And it may appear that their spiritual experience is going underground. And it may stay underground until they're around 20, when they have the maturation then that they can pull it back up and it becomes them. And there are windows of time for things to happen. 12 to 13 is one, 20 to 21 is another. Around 30, did you know there are people at 30, guys especially, who still don't know what they want out of life? They don't know what career they want to do. They know someday they'd like to be married and have a family. But who's going to want a guy at 30 who, hasn't begun to show the responsibility? So people develop. They may be perfectly normal. Develop at different paces. Spiritually, again, these young people want somebody to listen to them, to talk to them, not preach at them, but just listen and talk about what they're going through. Share your own story. If you had spiritual struggles at that age, don't be afraid to let the kids know that. They look up to you as role models. And again, they want you to be friendly, but not to act like you're on their level. So let them see how God has led you and just encourage them. He's leading them too.